Well, friend, I'm so glad that you decided to join me today. And this particular message, I don't know how to describe to you the way that God dealt with me about bringing the message. I just felt that there were some people that would be listening to this, perhaps you, that are in the middle of a crisis or going to be facing a crisis soon, and this was going to be an answer for them. So, hey, perk up your ears, get ready. I believe God's going to speak to you. Hi, I'm Bayless Conlon. In life, we all face uncertainty, whether it's financial troubles, relationship valleys, a health crisis, or just trying to discover your purpose. One thing is for certain, God sees you. He loves you, and no matter what you're facing, He has the answers. Ready for the word? Would you open your Bibles, please, to Psalm 61. Psalm 61, beginning in verse 1. Hear my cry, O God, attend to my prayer. From the end of the earth I will cry to you. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. For you have been a shelter for me, a strong tower from the enemy. I will abide in your tabernacle forever. I will trust in the shelter of your wings, Selah. And the word Selah means slow down. It means pause. Think about what you've just read. Don't rush on to the next thing. Reflect on that for a while. We're going to be reflecting on these first 4 verses of Psalm 61. First, I would like you to notice in verse 2, David said, when my heart is overwhelmed, not if. At times, all of us feel the floodwaters coming into our soul. I realize some have greater, more developed inner spiritual resources, and they can withstand greater assaults and get through, more difficult circumstances. But the truth is, every one of us will face circumstances that are bigger than we are. Every one of us will face circumstances that we cannot handle with our own strength and our own energy, things that are far too difficult, far too big for us to deal with. Consider these words from the Apostle Paul, writing to the Corinthians, 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 8 and 9. He said, we think you ought to know, dear brothers and sisters, about the trouble we went through in the province of Asia. We were crushed and overwhelmed beyond our ability to endure, and we thought we would never live through it. In fact, we expected to die, but as a result, we stopped relying on ourselves and learned to rely only on God who raises the dead. Paul himself said, look, we didn't know what to do. We were at the end of our rope and beyond. Thank God he learned a marvelous lesson, one that God wants us to learn, that our trust should be in him alone. When we feel crushed and overwhelmed and we don't have the resources to deal with things. And here in Psalm 61, we find 3 figures that God uses to speak of his aid and his protection. First, there is a shelter. Secondly, a strong tower. And thirdly, he speaks of a tabernacle. A shelter, a strong tower, and a tabernacle, all emblems of God's aid in our distress and his means to protect us and sustain us. But as well, these 3 things also reveal potential causes for an overwhelmed heart. And they're as follows: calamities, calculated assaults, and crossroads. And we're going to be dealing with all of these things today. Let's look at the first one, calamities. That's what a shelter shields us from. Rain, flood, accidents, the calamities of life come to all because we're living in a fallen world. Everything does not operate in this world the way that God originally intended. One day he's going to make a new heavens and a new earth wherein righteousness dwells, and the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords will rule, and everything will be perfect and everything will be right. But in the meantime, we are living in a fallen world. Sometimes calamities and unexpected things happen. Maybe you've experienced the loss of a loved one and you feel overwhelmed and you don't know how to cope with it. You know, it's just about 6 months ago, my brother-in-law went in for what we thought was a fairly routine back surgery. There were complications, and he died on the operating table. None of us saw it coming. It put the whole family in a tailspin. We never even got to say goodbye to him. It was very unexpected, very, very overwhelming. I have an acquaintance, he's actually been in our pulpit, was out doing ministry, out doing the work of the Lord. He's on a trip where he's preaching, and he gets a phone call. Brother, we hate to tell you, your wife's been in a terrible automobile accident and she didn't survive. Talk about going into a tailspin. It's like, God, I'm here serving you with all I have and all I am. You know, what's going on? And by the grace of God, he was rescued from that deep, dark place that he was in for a while. But things can happen. You know, I think about my dad, who's been in heaven for a few years now. Dad was an interesting fellow. He was one of the most generous people you'll ever meet, but he was not wasteful. My dad found it very difficult to throw anything away. I mean, if it was an empty paint can, he saved it. You never know, that empty paint can might come in handy. Even food that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, he says, oh, it's still good. You know, you just scrape this off and you can still eat it, you know. Dad just had a hard time throwing anything away, but, you know, he'd been through the Great Depression. And as well, when he was a kid, twice, his family lost everything due to floods, lost their home, lost every earthly possession. One time, they were rescued from the roof of their house by someone in a rowboat. He went through the trauma of that, and it impacted him on the inside. It was an overwhelming thing, you know, as a child, to lose everything you have, not once, but twice. And that was something that marked my dad, and he carried it with him into adulthood. All right, secondly, calculated assaults, which is what the strong tower shields us from. He said, God, you're a strong tower from the enemy. We do have an enemy. You realize we are in a spiritual conflict. Let me quote some verses to you. Ephesians 6:11 and 12. Put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. 1 Peter 5:8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. Now listen, I'm not one that blames everything on the devil, but the fact of the matter is we do have an adversary, and some of your troubles are the direct result of his activity. He is against the church. He is against God's people. The spirit realm is real, and we read through the scriptures, we find Satan behind illness in certain cases. We find him behind tragedy. We find him behind persecution. We find him, behind oppression. And he has not changed. Jesus said the thief comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And some of the things you may be experiencing and that I experienced in my life are literally calculated assaults. They are the result of the enemy's activity. And then we come to the third one. It's a crossroads. You stand at one of the intersections of life and you don't know which way to go. You're daunted, perhaps even overwhelmed as you consider what choice to make. And this relates to the reference of his tabernacle. I'll abide in your tabernacle. Often in Scripture, it's called the tabernacle of meeting because it's the place you go to meet with God. It's the place you go to hear from God, to receive guidance and strength and comfort from him. It was the place where God's presence manifested under the Old Testament. I think about the wife who's just found out that her husband's been cheating on her for their entire marriage, 15 years. She's at a crossroads. Her heart's broken. She's thinking, what am I going to do? I just found out. He said he's sorry. He says he's not going to do it anymore. But how can I trust him? He's lied to me every day for 15 years. And what am I going to do if I divorce him? What about the kids? What's going to happen to our son? What's going to happen to our daughter? How am I going to make a living? What's going to happen? That's a terrible place to be. It's quite a crossroads to be in. I've talked to numerous people in our church over the last year and a half or 2 years that were at a great crossroads in their life. They said, they told me, Pastor, either because of personal health reasons or conscience reasons, they did not feel at liberty to get a COVID vaccine, yet their employer has said, if you don't get vaccinated, you're fired. And it's like, Pastor, what do I do? Do I violate my conscience and get it, or do I lose my job and trust God to open up other work for me? Or do I go ahead and take this risk with my health, with something that I know? What do I do? And don't be quick to judge someone else's conscience, friend. The scriptures talk a lot about conscience. It is a sacred thing in the Bible. To violate one's conscience is sin. So don't be too quick to sit in judgment over another person's conscience. And there's some people that have been in great conflict. What do I do? And they're literally feeling overwhelmed because of those kind of things. Or the parent that finds out that their 7-year-old is being taught explicit sexual material in public school and being taught things that run cross-grain to traditional and biblical morality. Let's say it's a single mom. She says, what do I do? I can't afford to put my kid in private school, and I'd homeschool, but I have to work. If I don't work, we can't pay the rent on the apartment and we don't eat. What do I do? And if I go to the council meeting and raise my voice, they treat me like a domestic terrorist. What do I do? Those are not easy situations to be in, friend. And sometimes standing at the crossroads of life can be absolutely overwhelming. But thank God we have a tabernacle that we can meet with God in. The good news is God has a cure for everyone. He can shelter us during our times of calamity. He's a strong tower from the enemy. And thank God he has a tabernacle where we can meet with him and receive guidance and comfort and strength in our times of need. In fact, you don't have to go far to find his tabernacle. If you're born again, you're it. 1 Corinthians 3:16, do you not know that you are the temple of God and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? But as we read here in Psalm 61, there was actually some language that preceded, there was something that preceded these illustrations of the shelter and the strong tower and the tabernacle. Let's back up again to verse 1. Hear my cry, O God, attend to my prayer. From the end of the earth I will cry to you. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. From the end of the earth I'll cry to you. When I feel like I'm as far away from you and as far away from help as I can possibly be, isolated, alone, and forsaken, I will cry out and I will pray. And it begins with a very general cry for help, but it becomes quite definite and very specific. It all funnels down to this: when my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. Some years ago, I was meditating on Psalm 61. I've been reading it all day, over and over and over. I went to bed that night meditating on Psalm 61. From the ends of the earth, I'll cry to you. Lord, when my heart's overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that's higher than I. I actually fell asleep thinking about it. I woke up in the morning because I heard someone's voice, and then I realized it was my own voice. I was talking. I woke myself up talking. And I was saying this over and over. I need to see something, and I need to do something. I need to see something, and I need to do something. I actually looked around to see who was talking and it was coming out my mouth. I need to see something and I need to do something. Can we say that? I need to see something and I need to do something. I need to see something and I need to do something. Lead me to the rock that's higher than I. First, I need to see something. That's talking about God, bring me to a new vantage point, a place from where I can see farther. Lead me to a rock that's higher than I am. I need a new perspective. You know, I was golfing with a friend a couple of weeks ago, a course I'd never been to, and we hit our drives, and it's a blind shot. It's a dogleg right, and there's a hill. He says, all right, Bayless, the flagstick, the green's down over here, other side of the hill. Just hit it there. I said, if you don't mind, I'd like to go to the top of the hill. And so we climbed to the top of the hill, and I can see the green and the flagstick, and he didn't tell me there's water on the left. And he didn't tell me there's a bunch of bushes and junk on the right. So I realized, okay, this is where I need to hit the ball if I'm going to get it on the green. I got a higher perspective, a new view. It really helped. I used to spend a lot of time at the old church praying on the roof. I would get up on the roof, spend hours. I actually had an old Mexican sarape, and I'd wrap up in it, and I'd walk for hours up on top of the roof of that old building and pray. It's amazing the perspective you get from up there. I could see the whole city, and one of the neat things, you could see all the crosses on the different churches around the city from up there. It was kind of cool. But when David said, Lord, lead me to the rock that's higher than I am, it's a prayer for a new level of understanding, a new revelation regarding the purposes of God, or the true nature of a situation, or a look into the reality of your own motives, or perhaps the motives of others. Consider these verses in Matthew 16. I want to begin in verse 13. Matthew 16 and 13. It says, when Jesus came into the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? So they said, some say John the Baptist, some Elijah, others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. He said to them, but who do you say that I am? Simon Peter answered and said, you're the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus answered him and said to him, blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I also say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock, everyone say on this rock, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. On this rock I'll build my church. Friend, it's the rock of the revelation that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. He's not just a good man who died as a token for his fellow man. He was not just a guru or a good teacher. He was not just a symbol. He was, is, and forever shall be the living Son of God. That is the rock that God builds his church upon. And friend, any person that does not have that revelation, they are not part of this great body of Christ. They can attend a church, that doesn't make them a Christian, any more than sitting in the garage makes you a car. Jesus said you must be born again. And that only happens when a person has a revelation. Peter, flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father who's in heaven. And on this rock of revelation, I will build my church. And friend, when your heart is overwhelmed, you need to see something. You need a fresh perspective, a new insight, a revelation from the Father. You know, in our struggle with the city's redevelopment agency, when they tried to seize our property and acted eminent domain, locked us out of our property, I cried out to God. God, you got to show me. You got to give me insight here. And God took me to a higher rock. And I saw some things that changed my life. Let me tell you what I saw. First, I saw that God is not in a hurry, and that he's working things according to the counsel of his own will. I saw how God sees and works things from a long-range perspective when I tend to be more focused on the immediate. I also saw God desiring to work on a much bigger scale and weaving our lives and our acts of obedience, no matter how small they are, into a plan to bless multitudes and generations. And though Me and my needs are important to God and will be tended to by God. They're not the main thing. Yeah, God took me to a higher rock and it changed my life. I have not been the same from that day to this day. At the way that I view life and the way that I view ministry. It affected my faith. It was very, very important that I see it. Well, how do you get to the higher rock? David cried out for you. Pray. And notice he said, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. He will lead you. He will lead you to a place where you can hear what you need to hear. When you're feeling overwhelmed, God is a shelter and a tower and a tabernacle. But the fact is, you need to see something. Listen to me. You need to see something and you need to do something. I need to see something and I need to do something. Let me read. You'll be familiar with these scriptures, but let me read them to you. Luke 6 and verse 46, Jesus is speaking. But why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do the things which I say? Whoever comes to me and hears my sayings and does them, I will show you who he's like. He's like a man building a house who dug deep and laid the foundation on the rock. Everyone say the rock. And when the floods rose and the streams beat vehemently against that house and could not shake it, for it was founded on the rock. But he who heard and did nothing is like a man who built his house on earth without a foundation, against which the stream beat vehemently, and immediately it fell, and the ruin of that house was great. Protection against the forces that would destroy us and take us out are the direct result or the byproducts of our obedience of doing something. When I'm overwhelmed, when the floodwaters seem to be coming into my soul, I need to see something and I need to do something. You need to see something, your circumstance today, you need to see something and you need to do something. If it's a matter of unfulfilled obedience, something that God's already spoken to you about, repent and get busy and start doing it. When we were building our Sausalito property, how many go back with us to the Sausalito property? Okay, got quite a few of you. We'd gotten the property and I'm in the council meeting and we're trying to get the permits, to be able to build a church building there. And there were two council members that adamantly opposed us. I mean, adamantly opposed us. And so, I thought we're going to get, okay for the permits in that meeting, but it ended like, hey, this isn't looking good. We're going to meet and get together next week, or maybe it was 2 weeks later, and address this again. But you just need to know things don't look good for you. And I was a bit disappointed. And the next morning, the local paper came out, and whoever, the man or woman that wrote the article, just lambasted these two council members, basically called them God haters, and said they don't want God in our community. And my flesh went, yes. I just thought, crucify them. I just, something in my flesh felt really good, but my heart was saying something else. My heart was saying, this is not the Lord's way. I said, oh, yeah. So I prayed about it, said, Lord, show me what to do. And I felt like God showed me. So I went down that day to City Hall and asked if those council members were there. They weren't. And so I talked to the secretary. I said, look, I'm Bayless Conley. I'm the pastor trying to get permits. She said, oh, we know who you are. I said, well, the paper came out today. She says, yeah, we know. We read it. I said, I came down here just to tell those two council members that I'm sorry. I said, I feel like the paper treated them unfairly. And they had their reasons for opposing us. I wouldn't have called them legitimate, but they weren't God haters. And they weren't trying to keep God out of the community. It was unfair. And so I said, please just tell them that I'm sorry, that was written about them, and I don't agree with it. So they said, that's what you want to say? I said, yeah, please tell them. So we get back together the next time the council convenes, and our two opposers became our greatest champions. I mean, They were all for the church. And I mean, they actually pushed the thing through and got the permits for us. God took me to a higher rock. We need to do what the Lord tells us to do. I got a letter from a television watcher. She was in a terrible marriage. Her husband was unloving, unresponsive, just the love was dead in the relationship. She's unhappy. She said he's a cruel man. She said, and I was just at my wit's end. And I prayed, God, show me what to do. Show me what to do. And I turned on the TV and there was Cottonwood Church. And I was preaching from Luke 6:38. Give and it'll be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. We all know that verse, right? So give and it'll be given to you. Good. Yeah, we know the verse. And usually it's taught in connection with finances, but if you look at the context, it says, be good to those who hate you. And forgive. And be compassionate. And the whole context deals with love and forgiveness and kindness and showing mercy. And so I was teaching, I think it's certainly applicable when it comes to finances. I believe in the principle, but the context was showing love and kindness to the unkind and doing good to people that hate you and being merciful to people that don't deserve mercy. And you do that, and Jesus promises it'll be given to you good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over. And she goes, that's it. So this is all in the letter she writes. She said, so I've been doing that. I have been showing kindness to my husband and mercy and love, and a miracle has happened. God has changed my husband. It's like I'm married to a different man. It has absolutely turned our marriage around. God will lead you. God, lead me. Lead me to the rock that's higher than I. Give me a fresh perspective and show me what I need to do. Friend, if you're overwhelmed, God will help you. Right, the truth is God does love you. We all feel overwhelmed at times. We're all taxed beyond our ability to cope with things. We all face mountains that are too high, seas that are too deep and too far to swim across. But thank God, nothing ever takes God by surprise. He lays up provision for us ahead of time. The Bible says that God lays up wisdom for the just. He doesn't keep it from us. He lays it up for us. God has wisdom for you. He has mercy for you. He has a pathway for you to walk. Friend, I'm not just spouting off words. What I'm saying is true. God sees you. He sees your heart. He sees your situation. He loves you and He wants to help you. If you will, from the bottom of your heart, say, God, you lead me to the rock that's higher than I. Give me this fresh perspective. I believe that He will do it to the glory of His Son, Jesus Christ. We do serve the faithful God.
Are you on the verge of quitting? Are you barely hanging on? In your marriage, your job, your finances? Everyone faces hard times, and those times often hit when we least expect them. But the good news is, God is always there. In the inspirational booklet, Where is God When Hard Times Hit?, Pastor Bayless reveals the simple truth that when you face hard times, you are not alone. God knows and understands what you are facing, and He is ready to connect with you in the midst of your pain, suffering, and struggle. When you go online right now to BaylessConley.com and get Where is God When Hard Times Hit?, you will discover the spiritual truths that can turn your life around and the practical steps you can take to turn a defeat into a victory. Available in physical, digital, or audiobook formats for just $12. You'll learn that no matter what you're facing, God's strength can carry you to the other side. Don't quit. God is with you and you can overcome any obstacle. Where is God when hard times hit? He is present, waiting for us to ask Him to help. Don't miss this special offer. Go online right now to BaylessConley.com to get Where is God When Hard Times Hit? That's BaylessConley.com. When hard times hit, trust in God, and He will deliver you. That's BaylessConley.com. Go online right now.
We're uploading new content every week to help you find answers for your life. So don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. In the comments, let us know how this teaching encouraged you. We'd love to hear from you. Our prayer is that God's richest and best be yours always.